Hello, my name is Michael Timmons. I am the author of the Lycan War Saga and the Shards of the Coven series. I am also the organizer for the Writer's Block Author Fair, which happens here in Toledo, Ohio on October 22nd of this year. It will happen at the Franklin Park Mall. If you are an author and are interested in participating, I will put a link down below so that you can click and register for the event. Now, today we are going to talk about Amazon Prime's Wheel of Time, Episode 5, Blood Calls Blood. Now, this will be a spoiler chat. We're going to be discussing all the way up through A Memory of Light. In this video, I like to discuss what happens in the episode, and I also would like to talk about the changes that they have made, what worked, what didn't work, and how it will affect the story as we progress, and how it will match with the books, or how it will cause maybe conflict with things that will happen in the books later on, or whether or not it doesn't really matter whatsoever, the changes they made, if they actually are good changes and they work well within the story. Now, this episode deals with what happened in episode 4, which of course was the death of Karina, and what happens with her warder Stepan. Now, this is supposed to foreshadow events that will happen with the death of Moiraine, which I'm assuming will happen probably in season 3, near the end, which of course will leave Lan with having to deal with the fact that his Aes Sedai has been killed. Now, this does a good job to introduce us to different things. In this episode, we see what happens. Obviously, the mental effect that happens upon Stepan, and obviously at the end, of course, when he takes his own life, the depression, the loss, how devastating it is. It also brings up, how a Aes Sedai can release the bond. It talks about that at some point. I think we'll probably obviously find out about transferring the bond, which will also, I assume, be probably brought up probably season 2. They need to discuss that, obviously, because Moiraine transfers Lan's bond upon her death, so that eventually he can be with Nynaeve. Now, this episode starts with the funeral at the place of the battle. The one thing I thought was kind of weird about this, and I realized, let me back up a little bit. I realized that they had to deal with a lot of different things while filming. There's location, there's timing, things happen, and they can't delay too much because they have a certain amount of money, and delaying takes time. They already had a huge delay with Corona, and I get it, but what I thought was weird is that we have that battle essentially happened the day before this episode begins, and we have snow on the ground everywhere, where there was no snow yesterday during the battle or anything like that. Now, admittedly, it could have snowed overnight. I get that, but it's like a season change in overnight, which I thought was kind of weird. But again, that's a little nitpicky. Like I said, I get it. They probably didn't have a choice. It probably snowed where they were in a location, and they just needed to roll with it. And they probably didn't film them back to back. They may have filmed some other stuff that day before. I get it. There's a lot of production things that happen that they just kind of have to roll with. So, as I said, we start off with this funeral. What I did like about this funeral is they show a lot of different styles of, I guess, funeral rites and mourning. We have Alana doing a whale, and she has her face painted, and that's obviously something typical of her, of her people, which I thought one thing that's great about Wheel of Time is there's a lot of diverse people in the Wheel of Time, and a lot of diverse societies that follow different things. They practice different customs, and this show does a really good job of showcasing that. Um, Obviously, Stefan, of course, lays to rest Karina, um, and he takes her ring. And you can see how much it affects him. But one thing that's really good about this is that even though all this stuff is going on, this really has to do with Lan and Moiraine, and being the fact that they could lose one another at any point in time because what they do is dangerous. The way that they've been going, their mission essentially has a lot of risk, and um, there's a lot of looks between the two of them. Not even words. They just the way that they look at each other. You can tell that this is hitting with them really strongly, and just reminding them of the potential loss that they could suffer because of their mission. And if what happens if Moiraine dies, or what happens if Lan dies, and that bond that's so close, that it could, how devastating it would be to lose them. Um, like I said, there's a lot of really good acting in this. Lan looking at Moiraine, and Moiraine looking at Lan. Just the looks that they exchange, just really good. Of course, all the graves are done in a circle, like a wheel. Um, so just reminding you that we're watching the Wheel of Time, and once again, not sponsored by Mountain Dew, but cheers. So then we jump to 1 month later. This big time jump. And they're obviously going to Tar Valon. And one thing that's really nice is they have Karina's horse. They show Karina's horse with the boots facing backwards, which is apparently at like a military custom. So like fallen soldier, which of course Karina was Green Aja. She's the Battle Aja, so it was a nice touch to add that there. Like I said, there's so many things this show does so well. All the thought that they put into everything, that when there's something that's where there you can tell that for whatever reason that they miss, it's like really obvious because everything else looks just so thought out. So they do, Moiraine and Lan have this little conversation about whether the White Tower was still home. And Moiraine says, not really. It's not home for her anymore. Her home is in her saddle. They've been gone for so long. Just to remind you how long they've been searching for the Dragon Reborn. They have this little, they have this little exchange about Nynaeve, and Moiraine obviously is picking up that Lan is interested in Nynaeve, and that Nynaeve is interested in Lan. They kind of exchange that look like, okay, I don't, because Lan kind of puts up like, do you think she talks to me? And Moiraine just gives him a look like, come on. And then he's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, you got me. um, and so then we would go to Rand and Mat. And as I said, obviously this is after a 1 month period. Mat obviously is looking pretty haggard. They have this thing where this kid got really close, and Mat kind of snaps at him, almost like lashes out at the kid, just to remind you just how bad Mat is at this point in time. Um, talking about how tired they are, and a month without warm bed, and it's obviously this is we know um, that the dagger is having this effect on him, that it's corrupting him, but I don't think the show has done a good job, and obviously in the books we spend a lot more time with Rand and Matt, and you kind of see more of the progression of Matt as he gets worse and worse. Uh, and here we jumped ahead a month, so we didn't get to see that. So I mean, obviously, there's something you can clearly see. There's something wrong. But like I said, I'm just tired, and he's just tired. But in the books, like I said, you see the more progression, but it seems more natural. Here, it seems very not natural. Like you've gone from Matt being just, obviously what happened at the farm, was kind of showed you something was wrong. But like I said, in the books, there's almost a natural progression where they're being chased and hunted, and they're not able to get good night's rest. Everywhere they go, there seems to be someone after them or someone's waiting for them, and Matt's de-evolution into this paranoid and angry person seems more natural and less supernatural. Where here, they really have put it on as kind of blatantly supernatural effect on him, which it works, I guess. I kind of like it better the other way, but I see that what they're trying to do is give you the idea that maybe he might be the Dragon Reborn, which, once again, as much as I like this season and I like the series, this whole who is the Dragon Reborn motivated so many choices that they made that that question I don't think was a good premise for the season. I don't think that how they did it was good. This mystery box, thing that they did, I think it could have been they could have used a better question, I guess, for the season. Like, I think it's just more vague of who is the Dark One after, and why are they after them, which is more of the premise of the first book. Because in the first book, well, obviously we know Rand is the protagonist and he's the main protagonist, and obviously we know the Dark One is looking for him. We kind of get the idea that he might be the Dragon Reborn, but they don't really say. Moiraine never says that she's looking for the Dragon Reborn. She just says that that the Dark One is after them, and she wants to keep them from the Dark One, and she never explains why. Until obviously, much later. But I think that would have been a better mystery, because you could have skipped over that whole thing about the Dragon Reborn being male or female, or all that stuff. You could have skipped over all of that, even the Ta'Veren stuff, just by saying the Dark One was after these things, and we don't know why. Why are these after one? And obviously pointed out that Moiraine clearly knows why, but she's not explaining it. She's giving half-truths and lies, not lies, but half-truths, and dancing around the thing. So we have less trust of her, which I think would have worked better for the series. So, but anyways, back to this video. So we have Rand and Matt. Now they have this part where Rand recognizes Dragon Mount. Doesn't make sense. Absolutely makes zero sense. They do this so you can kind of give the impression of the fact that he obviously is the resurrected Dragon Reborn, or the dragon, Lews Therin. However, Lews Therin killed himself, and in the process of killing himself, he created Dragonmount. He never saw Dragonmount, so there's no way that Rand would have recognized Dragonmount, unless he recognized it from when he was a baby, because he was born on the slopes of it. It doesn't make any sense. As I said, this is one of those things where they tie this thing in, but it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a bad choice. We see this nice sweeping shot of Tar Valon with Dragonmount in the background. It's very beautiful. It just looks amazing. And we enter into Tar Valon. Now, it looks really good. The only thing is that I thought was kind of, and I get it, man, obviously this is probably production issues and cost, but it does not seem as crowded as I would imagine the city of Tar Valon is. Now, obviously, in the book, Tar Valon is a lot bigger. It's like the size of Manhattan. It has a lot more people in it, where it's smaller in the show. But altogether, it looks really good. It's a beautiful set piece. It looks amazing. It looks really good. And obviously, we get in here, we start seeing. You see a lot of different people, a lot of different dresses, outfits that people are wearing, showcasing the diversity of the world, which is really nice. And this is, of course, where we first start hearing the whistle. We start seeing Padan Fain again. And we go to, obviously, now, Matt's like, I thought we were going to the White Tower, but Rand's taking him to the inn where Basil Gill is. Rand's like, no, we need to go and get cleaned up. Now, obviously, he's not really telling Matt the truth. He doesn't want to go to Tar Valon because he's afraid that Matt can channel, and which he shouldn't be, because he's already channeled. So, really, he knows that he is the one that is the Dragon Reborn at this point, or at least has a really good idea. So there we have that whistle, and we see Padan Fain watching him from the corner. And Matt, of course, is once again wondering whether or not he killed the Grimwells. And Rand, as always, being a good friend, saying, it wasn't you, Matt. It was not you. And so it's a nice little exchange with them. Rand had some difficult moments at the beginning where he was kind of a little bit of dick at the beginning. But obviously, we know now that the reason why he was a dick is because he had just found out Tam wasn't his father. We find out that later in the season. But, Rand is a good friend. Rand is a really good friend. We see another sweeping shot of Tar Valon with the bridges going over to the other cities, the towns that are on the mainland. It just really, really amazing. Really good job they did. And we have, of course, Moiraine and Lan and Nynaeve. They're taking Nynaeve into the warder's quarters to keep her out of sight. Now, this is another thing I don't like that they did from the show, which doesn't make any sense to me, because at least in the books, and they kind of say it here right now, is that basically they're, once people know that Nynaeve is there, once the other Aes Sedai know that she's there, they're going to make her into a novice. They're not going to let her leave the White Tower. So I don't know why Moiraine would take her there. She would have been better to, of course, put her up outside of Tar Valon, or at least the White Tower, and put her in a room, something like that, before going to the White Tower. I don't understand why she took him there. Even took her in the Warriors' quarters, still not gonna matter. Um, and of course, Neve is once again is like, I don't really care about this place. I just want to find my friends. And Moraine says, hey, I got people watching everywhere. She has eyes and ears. Nice little drop from the book. And when she finds out, once they get there, she'll know. And Nynaeve, of course, as usual, not trusting Moraine, is like, yeah, you'll know, but will you tell me? Um, which, to Moraine's credit, in the end, she says, yeah, I will tell you. Um, and she basically warns Nynaeve, and which is really nice. She talks kind of like a, not like, what would I call it, an info dump, but basically she basically says, look, you know, these women have been practicing their arts, their manipulations, their machinations for decades, and you are not. You are, a small fish in a big pond here. And no matter how powerful you are in the one power, it doesn't matter because these women will they'll eat you up. They're just they they deal in the power of manipulation and how to to essentially the Game of Houses, the Game of Thrones, whatever you want to call it, where they know how to use people, and they would use her, and she wouldn't even know it because these women are so good at it. So it really kind of puts the stakes out there to Nynaeve of what to expect from the White Tower, and really makes, as an audience, kind of going, wow, I really want to know more and see what's going on to happen here. Um, and Nynaeve is like, hey, I'm really powerful, and it's they have this nice little exchange where Moraine kind of looks at Lan, and Lan looks at Moraine, and he's like, and he turns around and leaves. Once again, that's just that unspoken communication between them. It's really done well. Um, and so and Moraine's like, hey, you have touched the one power. You're never, you're not the same person anymore. You are not going to ever be the wisdom of the Two Rivers anymore. Your life is taking a different path, and you need to deal with that. And I'll do my best to help you, but in the end, you are the one that's gonna have to come to terms with that. So it's kind of nice. So now we go to back to the Tinkers with Perrin and Egwene, and um, Perrin, of course, is still kind of talking about interested in still kind of like showing some interest in the way of the leaf, and but not like he's just questioning. Now they're there at Tar Valon, or at least Tar Valon is visible. The White Tower is visible from where they are, and so then we have this scene where basically the White Cloaks stop the Tinkers, which I find really amazing that the White Cloaks would be that close to Tar Valon and bothering people when the Aes Sedai that are close by. I'm surprised that they would let them be that way. Um, Especially harassing people like this. And of course, we have Eamon Valda, who sees Perrin and Egwene, and he's like, hey, I recognize you two from before. You need to be brought to me. And Isla is like, you can't just take people that are with us, and even Valda, being the snake that he is like, I will do whatever I need to do. And so the Tinkers all link arms, and are like, you can't have them. And of course, the White Cloaks, being the bastards that they are, just beat up on the Tinkers. They punt, he slaps Illa, and the rest of the White Cloaks start just beating on the Tinkers. Meanwhile, Aram and Egwene and Perrin, they flee, and of course, they're caught. They try to get by, but they like I said, they get caught. So then we go to Rand. He's in the library at the inn, and we meet Loial. Now, Loial. Obviously, Loial's a great character from the book. We all love him. He's awesome. And I get that they could not CGI Loial. Frankly, I'm not sure if I would have wanted them to CGI Loial. But I get that they couldn't. It would be too expensive to have Loial CGI'd. It would cost them too much. And as much as screen time as he has, would have in the series, it would just be too much. I get that. That being said, I don't like the practical effects that they chose to do Loial. I don't like his makeup. I don't think he looks like... I don't think he really looks like what I would think a Ogier would look like, or even close to what I would think an Ogier looked like. And to me, he looks like... He doesn't even look non-human, really. He looks like a human, just bigger. And that's... I don't know why they decided not to... At least, not that you can see, but that he doesn't have the big ears, which you could easily have done with practical effects. He doesn't have the eyebrows, like Loial has, that would easily do in practical effects. I just, like I said, I don't think they did a very good job with him. I mean, I can live with it because it's okay, but I think that they could have done a better job, personally. But now this happens pretty much like in the books. Rand is initially afraid of Loial, but the reason why he's afraid of him in the books is that Ogier look a lot like Trollocs in a way. And so it's more believable that he would draw his sword and be like, hey, get away. Here it's just, like I said, he looks like a really tall human. A little more like a giant human, essentially. But he doesn't look frightening at all, or even remarkably like a Trolloc. So I don't, like I said, the choice that they did with the practical effects, I just don't think worked for me. It doesn't make the scene very believable. And the guy who plays Loial does a really good job. He has a good voice for it, and his expressions are really good. I mean, it's all acted very well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think he did a really good job, but I don't like the practical effects of his look. And we have this little exchange where basically Loial's like, "Hey, you're an Aielman," and Rand's like, "No, I'm not an Aielman, and I'm from the Two Rivers." And Loial's like, "Oh, you're someone from the Two Rivers who denies being an Aielman that's an Aielman." Basically just not accepting the fact that Rand's saying that I'm not an Aielman. So then we go back to Rand sees Mat outside. They hear the bells ringing, and it's because the Aes Sedai have returned, and they're bringing Logain in from that. And of course, Rand, is concerned with Mat. Now, we get to see, of course, once again, Mat scanning the crowd. You see some, I'm assuming they're accepted. They're dressed in white. They have these white bands on their arms which I think is an interesting touch. Probably keeps them looking different from the Accepted, which we haven't really seen yet. We haven't seen it Accepted, which of course we'll probably see in season 2. But not Accepted, Novice. Sorry, we haven't seen any Novices. I think these are Accepted. Yeah, because once again, they're the only ones who they can actually go out of Tower of Valon, or the White Tower, where Novices can't. But we also see Padan Fain, once again. He's in his little corner there, gives a little smile, walks away. You know, Mat and Rand see Logain. Logain, it looks just, you know, completely distraught. But we have this scene, and this is a very confusing scene, and I'm obviously it was probably done on purpose, but it's a little weird. But Logain looks up at Rand and Mat. Now this is kind of similar in the books. It happens in Camelin though, where Logain can see Rand from very far away, and because he can see ta'Veren, he sees how that Rand shines brightly, and you know, all this time he thought he was a dragon, but he realizes he wasn't, and he sees what he believes probably is a dragon, and he laughs. So it's similar to that, but here he looks like he's looking at Mat. Or at least Mat looks at him like he's looking at him, and he starts laughing, and just like laughing hysterically. And Mat's kind of like freaking out as he laughs. But what's really weird is that when we go back to looking at Logain in the cage, he's once again in the corner. He's not looking up at them, and he's still looking down. So did it happen? Did Mat imagine it? It's very confusing, which I'm assuming is on purpose to kind of give you this thing, but it doesn't really make sense. Like, why would Mat see that? And you know, why would Mat hallucinate that? I don't know. It's an interesting scene, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we have this little scene where basically Rand and Mat promise each other that, you know, if, you know, one of them is the Dragon Reborn, that they would never let the other end up like Logain. So they make that promise. Now we go back to the Warders. We see Steffan and Lan and Avon and his name escapes me, the other warder. But and they talk about Steffan talks about his past and about him meeting Karina and how Karina saved him, and it's a nice touching part, and it shows, you know, just men sharing feelings and talking. So, and you can see that Steffan is just really devastated and not having a hard time dealing with Karina's loss. And Lan has this part where he says, like, you know, hey, Steffan, you know, maybe, you know, Alana can take you as her warder. And Steffan snaps at him, like, you know, you lose Moiraine and then tell me how easy it is to go be with another Aes Sedai. Which, once again, nice little foreshadowing, because obviously that's what happens with Lan. But unfortunately, he gets forcefully transferred to another Aes Sedai. So, it's an interesting exchange, which you know, is really good. But So then we have this ceremony where Stepan returns the ring to the cauldron, I guess, essentially. Um, Basically, the molten metal that the rings are made from. Um, so it's showing you that, uh, once again, the wheel turns. If an Aes Sedai dies, her rings return to this place where it's melted down to become a ring for another Aes Sedai. So, it just goes round and round. Um, Now, none of that's in the books. They don't ever talk about that. Um, it's a nice little addition. I think that they did a really good job of adding this thing. I personally, I don't really care for the look of the rings, but this part is really kind of interesting. After that, then we could see Lan and Moiraine. They share a moment. A lot of unspoken things pass between them. Once again, like I said, this episode is really, even though it deals with Stepan and the death of Karina and its effect on him, it's really all about Lan and Moiraine and them coming to terms with having this reminder that this could be a consequence for their actions, for all the stuff that they do. It's just really well done. And of course, we are back with the White Cloaks. Now we get a very traumatizing scene of the White Cloaks scrubbing down Egwene. They do it with some harsh bristle brushes. They strip her naked, and they scour her of dirt. Then they undo her braid, which of course we all know is very important to her. They manicure her hands and fingers, which is just, like I said, it's a creepy exchange. And then they strap her to a chair. Now this is very important because they put ropes on her wrists and they put ropes across her ankles. Now, I'll explain why that's important, but obviously one of the things is the reason why they strap her wrists like that is because Eamon will cut off her hands if she's an Aes Sedai. But once again, we see Eamon eating. Now, I was listening to a podcast, The Wheel Takes, which is a really good podcast. I had it recommended to me by one of my viewers and one of my subscribers. And I thought they talked about why they always show Eamon eating when he's doing this. And they were talking about how that's one of the things they'd like to, television and movies like to do with bad guys, have them eat. That it's just something. I didn't really explain it, but they said what I look at it as, why I view it is because it really shows like a lack of caring about what is actually going on to these other people. Like, while people are being tortured or being mistreated, that they're eating because they have no empathy. They don't even, it doesn't upset them in any way. Usually when you're upset, you can't really eat. And, what's going on with Egwene, what he's planning on doing with Perrin, it doesn't bother him. He's detached from it. He's so at calm and at ease, and that's why he's able to eat. That's why I think that they show bad people eating, because, like I said, it's just not. And once again, the guy who plays Eamon great. He's awesome. He just oozes creepiness and malice. And Egwene's like, of course, she's saying that she can't channel. Eamon doesn't really believe her, and he's like, hey, the light brought you before me. twice now. It never does anything without a purpose, and um, and we have a nice little thing where Egwene says like, "Hey, I can't channel," and you said yourself, "You're a man of the light, you know, and if you are a man of the light, then you know you can't kill an innocent person." And you know, Valda's like, "What makes you think that I am a person who actually follows my oaths?" Which is very enlightening. Um, and that, you know, he says, you know, it's like, I could kill you right now. And she's like, fine, then do it. You know, and then I will come back in my next life and I will haunt you. Which, you know, is a nice, good Egwene moment. It really shows her strength. I really loved it. We get to see the rings, of course, where Egwene's like, oh my gosh, she's got a bunch of rings. Um, so, instead, we see that he goes and which is kind of rude, he puts wine and alcohol on the knife, and he goes and he starts to um, cut into Perrin. We get this nice shot of Perrin's eyes, which turn golden while he's getting cut. Um, and you know, he gives this nice little soliloquy. Imanval gives a nice little soliloquy about how, you know, us humans are meant to walk this earth. We struggle and we fight, but that the witches of Tar Valon, you know, they walk like gods among men, and it's not right. And Imanval says, you know, hey, if you channel for me, I'll kill you and I'll kill the boy. But if you don't channel, then I'll kill the boy and I'll let you go. So basically, he's giving her no good choices. Either she's dead and Perrin lives, or Perrin's dead and she lives. So it's not really good. So he leaves her there. Then we go to Stefan and Nynaeve. Stefan asks Nynaeve for some sleeping potion or sleeping tea, and of course, we all know that this is not going to end well if he gives her that. If she gives him that. And Nynaeve, of course, you know, she just wants to help. She just wants to heal. And then we see she walks the halls and she runs into Liandrin. Um, and we find out about Reds a little bit, that Reds don't have warders, that they never have water, and then he was like, because you hate men, and Leandrin has a nice little line where she's like, is that a statement or a question? And she says, like, you know, yeah, some of my sisters do hate men. I don't, but some of them do. But you know, can you blame us? Because even though, you know, we're really powerful, this world is still filled with men who don't take kindly to women who have power. And basically, she shuffles Nynaeve off. You know, hey, why don't you go check out the library? Which, of course, is important because, and obviously, clearly in a scene that was filmed but not shown, Loial runs into Nynaeve there, and thinking that she is Egwene, because Rand apparently at some point told Loial about Egwene and what she looks like, and that she has a braid. And we have this scene of Mat. Obviously, Nynaeve initially wants to help Matt, and um, you see him lash out at Nynaeve, and just once again we're seeing the effects of the dagger on Matt. Um, but and then we go and Rand and Nynaeve has this conversation where Rand's like, I think he might be able to channel, and Nynaeve's like, okay, well, guess what? Then we'll not take him to the White Tower. We'll just keep him between, be safe with us. Hopefully, Egwene and Perrin will arrive, and then we'll figure out what to do. Nynaeve talks about Egwene having brokeback fever when she was young, but that basically because she's so strong and stubborn that that basically the fever couldn't break her. From the books, though, in the books, Nynaeve actually heals her at that moment, and they don't make it sound like that. Here, I'm not sure if that's because Nynaeve doesn't want to accept that she did it, or she doesn't know that she did it, or if they're changing the storyline. I liked it better that Nynaeve actually did heal her at that moment, but didn't know about it. But in the books, like, Moraine finds out about it, and that's why she knows that Nynaeve can heal, or can use the one power. That that Egwene's an unbreakable person. So then we go back to Egwene and Perrin, of course, because they just talked about this. And Egwene is trying to channel, and Perrin's like, stop doing that. Just let him kill me. I deserve to be killed because I killed Lila, and he tells Egwene what happened. That he killed his wife, but not on purpose. And Egwene, of course, like the rest of us, are like, it's still not your fault. It was an accident. You didn't mean to do it, and you're not a bad person. Yeah. So, and that's when Imanvala comes back, and Egwene has this nice moment where she's like, you know what? Hey, you may not believe that you didn't do anything wrong, but in time you will. And she she tries to channel. She finds her calm space, like, reaches out, touches the one power. She creates a fire that she sends at Imanvala, but then just basically bounces off his chest, which even a little bit of fire would at least caught his clothes on fire. I don't know. It was kind of a silly thing with the fire. I know she doesn't have a lot of power, but I think it still would have done that. But it wasn't really meant to attack him. It was meant to distract him, so that basically she split the weaves, which is incredibly difficult to do. So, which we don't really know about at this point in the show, but we know it is really difficult to do. And so, when she does that, she also sends fire or heat, as it would say, into Perrin's bonds to free him.
Especially with the flame so smooth.
So,
in truth, I was expecting
Perrin's able to get free, and this part clearly is meant for drama purposes, but it just came off as kind of, to me, it's kind of a silly thing, where, Perrin's like growling and he has these golden eyes, and Imanvala, who has clearly been through a lot of stuff. He's tracked down Aes Sedai. He's clearly dealt with people with the one power. He sees Perrin with golden eyes, and it just shakes him to his core. I just didn't really believe it. It just didn't seem why would that really... He doesn't even try to defend himself, he even drops his knife. It just seemed like a really bizarre reaction. I can't imagine he would be that scared from that. So then we are back to what I said earlier. It's kind of important to remember. Egwene, who was strapped to a chair, had ropes around her ankles and around her wrists. Now, she basically attacks Valda with his knife. How she got out? I don't know. It doesn't show. It didn't happen. Somehow, though, all her bonds have gone and she was able to get free. It didn't, like I said, for a show that really takes its time to really showcase the finer points and really looks for like a lot of the details that a lot of shows kind of gloss over and over. Then they do something like this, where they have this clearly impossible scenario just happen because she was strapped to a chair, but now she's free and she's stabbing Valda. Doesn't really make sense. Why she didn't stab him and cut him across the neck or anything like that, I don't really get. But I mean, I guess she's never killed anyone before, so maybe she just wanted to hurt him. So they get out into the camp, and the wolves are attacking. And they see a wolf, and it looks at Perrin, and it barks, or growls at him, and Perrin's like, yeah, he won't hurt us. And Egwene's like, how would you know? But obviously, the wolf doesn't, because, they wouldn't hurt Perrin. So then we go back to Tar Valon, and we see this beautiful, once again, all the shots of Tar Valon are just amazing, but this beautiful nighttime shot of Tar Valon. It just looks absolutely beautiful. We have this wonderful exchange between Moiraine and Liandrin, and Liandrin's like, where is Nynaeve? I'd like to see it. And Liandrin does this little tuck of the hair behind Moiraine's ear and caresses her cheek, which kind of gives you the impression that maybe at some point Moiraine and Liandrin had a little something going on, which I think adds a different dynamic to their relationship, which I really like. It's not in the books, but if they touch upon that a little bit more, it would be really good. And Liandrin's like, well, maybe Nynaeve will, she's got a little spunk, maybe she'll be a red. And Moiraine's like, her first major one power use was to heal a room full of people. Pretty sure she's going to go with yellow, not red. I wouldn't even bother doing that. Then we have, go back to Stepin and Lan. We see some idols that are meant to be the Forsaken, which is interesting. And obviously we don't get to see, there's not all of the Forsaken there. But we get the name drop of Ashamriel, which of course, as we know, that's who really has been behind all the dreams and all the things that happened with Rand and the boys and everything. So it was a nice little name drop, which we, as I said, we'll obviously learn later, probably in season 2. And Lan, of course, is like, hey, I know you've been through a lot, so I'll stay with you till morning. And we have Alanna and Moiraine have this little exchange where basically Alana's like, hey, Swan, the Amon seat is not doing well. People are questioning her, and you have enough. Swan's mad at you, but you don't have enough standing within the tower. Maybe you could. Maybe you could be Amyrlin. And Moiraine's like, I never wanted to be Amyrlin. And, but Lando's like, Leandra's taking this going. People are kind of believing what she's been saying. And, you know, uh, it's a nice little exchange back there. It was the first time we get to see this little picture frame thing, which of course will mean something next episode. I really don't like it, but we'll talk about that next episode. So we go back to Stepin and Lan, and they have this nice little intimate conversation about how Stepin is going to go on, and maybe he will take Alana's offer, and basically, hey, he's never been with men before, but it's first time for everything. It's a nice little exchange. Doesn't make anything seem, it's not like in your face about polyamory or homosexuality or bisexuality, but it's just a conversation. Some shows really kind of, like I said, they put it in your face and like, hey, look, here's bisexuality, here's homosexuality, here's all the stuff, and they just throw it at you, and it's blatant, and it seems almost in a way preachy or pandering. This did a nice job of not doing that. It just was a conversation that they had, and it seemed like a normal conversation, natural conversation. It did not seem like preachy or anything like that. And of course, Stevin's like, hey, tell me about the wisdom. And Lan's like, hey, there's nothing to tell. And then Stevin's like, I see it. I see what's going on. You guys. And that, there's something going on there. She obviously cares for you. She touched the one power for the first time to save your life. And Lan's like, it's not a good idea for her to be in love with me. And Stevin's like, well, love's usually a bad idea, but we still allow it to happen. And he says, and this part I really like the exchange. He said, without it, life would be intolerable. And Lan says, well, I can tolerate a lot. And Stefan gives him this look as he's drinking the tea, and he says, I know. Now, it's such a good moment there, because what Stefan is saying by I know that Lan can tolerate a lot is he knows that by giving him sleeping potion or sleeping tea or whatever you want to call it, so that he can leave and kill himself, that's something that Lan's going to have to live with, because Lan is here to keep Stepin from hurting himself, because that's the risk. That warders are so overcome with grief that a lot of times they can't go on, they can't live once their Aes Sedai is dead. So that's why Lan is here. So Stepin knows that what he's doing by forcing Lan to fall asleep, by drugging him, and so that he can kill himself, that he is putting this burden on Lan, this guilt, this remorse, but he knows that Lan can tolerate a lot. He knows that he will be okay in the end. It will hurt him, yes, but he knows that he's strong enough to handle it. So it's just a nice touch, nice little. Yeah. So then, of course, morning comes to the White Tower, and Lan wakes up, realizes that he's been drugged. He sees that there's a knife gone, and he runs through the tower. Now, one thing, and like I said, this is definitely had to do because of the pandemic, and I understand that, but which is a shame. It's a shame that this ended up being like this because of the pandemic, and I'm hoping they will change this, but the White Tower looks so empty during all of this. It just looks like there's not enough people in there. And I realize their numbers have been dwindling, as they will probably say next season. That they don't have quite the numbers that they used to have, but it just looks empty. So Lan rushes around. He finally finds Stepin. kneeling, and he sees that he has stabbed himself in the stomach to kill himself. And then we have the funeral exchange where they pick out a chief mourner. They pick out Lan, and Lan, he has this part where his eyes just kind of close when I don't know who this guy is, but basically chooses him as the chief mourner because he doesn't want to do it. He does not want to be the one to have to show that emotion. That's just not how he is. But I think that's part of the reason why they chose him, so that he could give up his grief like this. And now, from what I understand, that this is part of it, like a Korean tradition to have a chief mourner. So, this funeral scene is really it's like I said once again, it's very much to show Lan and Moiraine's relationship, and you could see how much this loss means to them, how much the loss of an Aes Sedai and then a loss of a warder, and how it affects each and every one of them. And a lot of people complain that obviously it's not how Lan would act, because he's very stoic. He doesn't really show very much emotion, but he was chosen as chief mourner, so it's kind of his duty to do this. So, I don't see any problem with it. I don't know why other people had a problem with it. I mean, I guess from the trailer, I guess it makes sense, but why people might be like, wait, Lan's screaming and crying? That's not how he is. And when they watch the trailer, but when you watch the episode, it makes sense. Like I said, he was chosen as chief mourner. That's his duty, and he always does his duty. Duty is heavier than a mountain, and death is lighter than a feather. Right? Right. Okay, so overall, let me talk about the show. Episode. As I said in the beginning, really like the episode. It's really good. It really shows the consequences of the Aes Sedai warder bond. What will happen if the Aes Sedai dies, and also kind of how if the warder dies, because in the end Stephen dies, and you can see that effect on Moiraine, because she can think, well, I don't want Lan to die, and I certainly don't want Lan to die because I die. My problem with this is that I don't think it should have been in season 1. Season 1 really needed to deal with the Emmonsfield Five, our main characters. Yes, Lan and Moiraine are kind of our main characters at this point, but ultimately they're not going to be our main characters going forward. Our main characters are going to be Rand, Perrin, Egwene, and Nynaeve, and Mat. And we really needed to spend more time building that relationship between them. Instead of skipping ahead a month, we should have dealt a little bit more with Mat's progression into darkness. Maybe had some more indication about Rand, because right now obviously they're trying to hide Rand, because the book readers, we all know he's the Dragon Reborn, and they'd want to keep eyes off of him as much as possible. But they could have done a little bit more with that. They could have had a little bit more exchange with Perrin and Egwene and the Tinkers. I just think some more character moments between those people, I think, would have done better than showcasing this. This, I think, would have been better to have something like this in season 3 to bookend. Because right now we have it in season 1, and Moiraine's probably not going to die until season 3. So this is going to be out of people's heads all of season 2. I think it just would have been better to have it almost in the same season, maybe? I don't know. Or maybe at the end of season 2, going into season 3, where Moiraine dies, just to bookend what happens, with the actual, foreshadowing and then payoff in the same season, or at least closer. But one of the main flaws of the season, I think, in my personal opinion, is that we just did not get enough of interaction between the Emmonsfield Five, the Two Rivers folk, and getting to know them a little bit more. I think that we needed to spend more time with them. That's my opinion. But overall, good season, good series, good episode. I did like it greatly. The acting was amazing. The set pieces were great. The CGI was great. Tower of Milan looked amazing. The White Tower looked amazing. Everything looked amazing. It was really good, really well done. Like I said, I just don't think that this fit into the season the way it should have. I think it should have been in a different season. That's my opinion. Alright, well that wraps up Blood Meets Blood, or Blood Calls Blood, sorry, this episode. I hope you enjoyed my dissection of the episode. And if you did, please like, subscribe, comment down below. How did you like the episode? Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? And if so, why? Why did you like it? Why didn't you like it? What was your favorite episode of the season? I'd love to hear. So, like I said, please make your comments down below. Like, subscribe, click that notification bell. I try to do one of these every week. Showcase on Wednesday or Thursday. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get it out there, but I kind of had to skip last week. I actually did record a whole video on this episode, and I just did. In the end, I didn't like it, and I decided to re-record it, but I had to wait till I had time to do it. So, as I said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and catch me next time when I will do episode 6. All right, have a good day.